censorship.
I won't use it. Journalists won't use censorship. Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please, can you take your seats? We're about to start. Dear colleagues, can you please take your seats? Good morning again. Before we start our session, please be informed that the Bureau met this morning and discussed the organization of our work for today. As a reminder, we have so far completed the examination of 46 individual files under item 10A, 10B, and 10C. We still have to examine the international assistance request submitted by Albania, namely Decision 13-10D and Draft Decision 13-10B1, concerning Chamamé submitted by Argentina. Dear colleagues, the chair has asked me to sit for him this morning because he had a governmental meeting, so you'll have to deal with me for 1 hour or two, and thank you for that. We will start this morning's session with the examination of item 11, Intangible Cultural Heritage and Emergencies. I suggest that we move to item 12, and if we have time, to item 13 and then 17. For this reason, we will then postpone the examination of draft decisions 13-10, 13-10B1, Argentina, and 10D, Albania, until his return. That is for the afternoon session. Items 14, 15, and 16 may be linked to the 13-10, so I suggest that we leave them for later too. And without delay, let us proceed to the next item, which is item 11, Intangible Cultural Heritage and Emergencies. Mr. Secretary, the floor is yours to present this item to us.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Dear committee members, dear observers, allow me to give some recap of the background of this item. In 2016, the committee examined a dedicated item on ICH in emergencies for the first time. At that time, the committee recognized the two dimensions of the issue, namely the effects of emergencies on the practice and transmission of living heritage, and the role of intangible cultural heritage as a tool for preparedness, resilience, reconciliation, and recovery in situations of emergency. The committee also expressed the need to obtain more knowledge and experience from the ground to fully grasp the issue. The following year, the Secretariat carried out case studies and a desk survey addressing different contexts, including armed conflicts and disasters caused by natural and human-induced hazards. Upon examination of the results of this work last year in 2017 at Jeju, the committee pointed to a future direction that privileges the identification of needs by affected communities and asked the Secretariat to continue with this approach. The Secretariat was also encouraged by the committee to enhance awareness raising and capacity building on this issue and to strengthen cooperation with relevant UN entities. In other words, until last year, the focus of the Secretariat's work was rather on coming up with a preliminary analytical approach, and this year we concentrated on streamlining and applying the agreed approach into operational activities, initiating cooperation with UN entities and other stakeholders in the humanitarian field, and enhancing general awareness raising and capacity building. The working document on this item reports on a number of activities undertook in this regard. I mainly wish today to provide an update on some of them and to elaborate on the proposed way forward. Regarding operational activities, we have tried to use the community-based needs identification approach in a systematic and coherent manner in the different responses and initiatives of UNESCO in emergency contexts. I will not repeat here what is in the document, where you will find information about our involvement in different endeavors, such as the Directors General Initiative on Mosul, the UNESCO-wide Lake Chad and Sahel projects, activities related to prevention against violent extremism, notably in Niger, and recent experiences in response to natural disasters, in particular in the Pacific and Caribbean. The main idea was to move away from the natural tendency to predefine an ICH element to be safeguarded in emergencies, but to start by carrying out identification of needs led by communities, including capacity building. This is because main lines of emergency actions should be based on community identification rather than by external actors in advance. In the field of disaster risk prevention and response, a pilot activity of collection of knowledge and practice was initiated in October 2018 with the involvement of communities in the Dutch Caribbean islands and the Suriname, thanks to a contribution of the Netherlands. This activity allowed to pave the way for an inventory in ICH related to disaster risk prevention and response, and to raise awareness at institutional and community level about the importance of ICH in this area. In this regards, the Secretariat has started to work on capacity building material, on disaster risk reduction and inventories. Moreover, an awareness raising activity was carried out at the sub-regional level in the framework of the conference Regional Approaches to Disaster Recovery and Heritage Preservation, organized in August 2018 by the International Council on Archives and the Caribbean Archives Association in collaboration with the government of Saint Martin. I'm coming now to cooperation with UN entities and humanitarian actors. The working document talks about the partnerships and activities led by the former Unit of Emergency and Preparedness Response of the culture sector, which are relevant, of course, also for ICH. In addition, I would like to provide more information on the UN workshop that we convened in Beirut, Lebanon, on the 31st of October, a few weeks ago. This meeting was of a technical nature and had the objective to sensitize sister agencies present in Lebanon as to what ICH is, and to initiate a joint reflection on the role of intangible cultural heritage in emergencies. UNDP, the United Nations Development Programme, UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, UN Habitat and the UN Interim Force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, the UN Economic and Social Commission for West Asia, ESCO, and the World Health Organization actively participated in this meeting. They all welcome the initiative and recognize the potential of ICH for their own activities, which being in line with the people-centered approach of humanitarian aid. Some of them, such as UNHCR, asked for immediate collaboration with UNESCO in view of bringing the ICH perspective into their work. When asking, when do you think we can be most relevant, the response seemed unanimous: you should be involved from the early stage. They expressed the need to benefit from UNESCO technical expertise as well as guidelines. Moreover, they all call for training in ICH for UN staff in order to raise awareness on this issue among humanitarian workers. Hence, the results of this meeting held with UN colleagues from the field were very positive and encouraging, and we look forward to pursuing concrete cooperation. And we feel that we can confirm now that there is indeed a role to play for ICH in the humanitarian arena. Very recently, on the 16th of November, we also had the opportunity to bring the ICH view in discussions with the World Bank, ICOMOS and ICROM in the framework of the launch of the UNESCO World Bank position paper on culture and city reconstruction and recovery. They all welcome the community-led approach of living heritage, which again contributing to the people-centered approach of the position paper. Another major international event, the Paris Peace Forum, was further occasion to affirm the people-centered approach. Among the 120 innovative projects showcased during the forum, UNESCO and the Colombian authorities, including the President of Colombia, presented together the Emergency International Assistance Project of Colombia on the reintegrations of ex-combatants FARC using ICH as a tool for dialogue and reconciliation. To wrap up, after a year of inward looking to better understand the situation, followed by a year of exposure to external initiatives and partners, we know today that there is a need, a space and a call for action in the field of ICH in humanitarian responses to situations of complex emergencies. It is yet time still to move forward, and that is what is proposed to you in section 3 of the document. At the request of the committee last year, we are currently conducting a mapping and analysis of the different methodological approaches used worldwide with a view to safeguarding intangible cultural heritage and mobilizing it as a tool for resilience and recovery. The report is expected for early 2019, and the intention is to develop recommendations for methodological guidance for stakeholders of the Convention faced with situations of emergency. On this basis, and based also on the knowledge and experience gathered over the past 3 years, the Secretariat proposes to convene a meeting of individual experts, Category 6 meeting, in 2019 to explore operational modalities for the implementation of such recommendations, in line with the principles of the 2003 Convention. The meeting would cover both conflicts and natural disasters, as well as the 2 dimensions highlighted by the committee, namely, to what extent intangible cultural heritage itself is disrupted and threatened under such circumstances, and what can be done to safeguard it, and in what ways intangible cultural heritage can be promoted, safeguarded, or supported as a critical means for rebuilding social cohesion, fostering reconciliation, and/or facilitating preparedness and recovery for communities confronted with such situations of emergency. Should the committee agree with this proposal, the conclusions of the expert meeting would be presented to the 14th session of the committee in 2019 with a view to identifying methodological guidance for operational modalities of the Convention to the 8th session of the General Assembly in 2020. The Secretariat is of the view that a format such as guidelines would be appropriate. They could be integrated into the basic texts, the famous Blue Book, as an annex, as was done, for example, with the ethical principles. However, we would need your guidance on this. Concerning the funding for such a meeting, the Bureau of the Committee had approved in June last an action line on ICH in emergencies under the other function of the committees. Hence, we have some seed money available. Moreover, the government of the People's Republic of China expressed the wish to further support the 2003 Convention in this area. Hence, I am pleased to confirm that the necessary resources are available should the committee approve the organization of the proposed expert meeting. I have now reached the end of my presentation. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. I now open the floor. Does anyone wish to take the floor for any remark, idea? Okay. I see Palestine and Japan. Okay. Kazakhstan.
شكرا سيدة الرئيسة. كما تم عرض هذا الموضوع من قبل السكرتارية فإنه موضوع قائم منذ سنتين، والعرض كان وافي، ونحن نشكر السكرتارية لتقريرها حول هذا الموضوع. لكن تعلمون أن في هذا التقرير كما رأيتم قبل قليل هناك المزيد من الاهتمام أكثر فأكثر بخصوص حماية التراث غير المادي في حالات الخطر. طبعا حالات الخطر هي إن أردنا أن نفصلها هي تحتوي العديد من الأوضاع، فهناك الخطر المرتبط بعناصر الطبيعة، يعني هذه الحاجات ستزيد للأسف بسبب التغير المناخي، لكن هناك أيضا خطر قائم في عدة مناطق ولا سيما في المنطقة العربية بسبب الصراعات القائمة والصراعات العسكرية. Madame la Présidente, en réalité, nous pensons que l'action menée par le secrétariat va dans le bon sens et nous apprécions ce travail et nous espérons que nous arriverons bientôt à des résultats concrets et avoir des, disons, pas des directives, mais peut-être quelque chose de modalités opérationnelles qui seront adoptées bientôt pour aider les États parties et toute autre partie concernée dans ce domaine pour mieux gérer la protection du patrimoine culturel immatériel dans les cas d'urgence. C'est la raison pour laquelle j'ai présenté quelques amendements et je souhaite voir le soutien de nos collègues, car ces amendements ne font que simplement accentuer l'importance de cette action de sauvegarde et son urgence aussi, surtout dans les cas d'urgence. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Palestine. Japan, please.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. My intervention is not the comment on the way forward, but I just wanted to introduce briefly our experience and ongoing projects concerning ICH emergencies, because Japan has suffered through many, many natural disasters. So first of all, we thank the Secretariat for its work on this important issue. We appreciate it very much. Natural disasters such as earthquakes, tsunamis, and typhoons have serious impacts on the transmission of ICH. On the other hand, we have learned through these hardships that ICH is a spiritual pillar for communities and plays a major role in re-establishing ties among community members. Especially after the great earthquake in eastern Japan in 2011, we compiled the knowledge of what is needed to safeguard ICH immediately after the disaster, a while after it, and several years after it. The Tokyo National Research Institute for Cultural Properties carries the long-term monitoring project in the affected areas. It has also constructed a network of local government officials who work to safeguard ICH. And the International Research Center for Intangible Cultural Heritage in the Asia-Pacific region, our Category 2 center in Japan, has been engaging in projects on the theme of ICH safeguarding in natural disaster risk management, and also on emergency protection of ICH in conflict-affected countries. These projects are elaborated in response to the UNESCO midterm strategies. So Japan would like to share our experience, know-how, and the results of such projects in the process of the discussion on this theme and contribute to supporting recovery of ICH from various disasters. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. Azerbaijan, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Azerbaijan welcomes the progress achieved by the Secretariat since committee's last session in gaining experience of the impact of emergency situations, including armed conflicts and natural disasters. Intangible cultural heritage is indeed particularly vulnerable when threatened by such situations, but can also serve as a powerful tool for recovery of communities. We strongly support the idea that states need to ensure that communities, including internally displaced persons and refugees, should have access to the objects, artifacts, cultural and natural spaces, and places of memory whose existence is necessary for expressing their intangible heritage. And we were pleased to see that this position is clearly reflected in the draft decision. Our delegation welcomed the actions undertaken by the Secretariat in the Democratic Republic of Congo, as well as operational activities foreseen in the Republic of Iraq, especially within the framework of the initiative to revive the spirit of Mosul. We also noted with great interest the work being done in the field of ICH safeguarding and natural disasters, as well as interinstitutional cooperation opportunities. We believe it's important that these efforts go in line with the similar actions being undertaken by the World Heritage Convention. We are pleased to see that synergies are explored in that sense. We welcome the study initiated by the Secretariat to map and analyze different methodological approaches in the field of intangible heritage and emergency situations, as well as to develop recommendations for methodological guidance. In that sense, we highly support holding of a Category 6 meeting of experts in 2019 that will explore operational modalities for the implementation of such recommendations. Finally, we are pleased to announce that Azerbaijan is ready to provide volunteer contribution to follow-up actions after the meeting of experts in 2019 with a view to develop a deeper set of guidelines and recommendations which may guide the work of states facing the situations of armed conflicts and natural disasters. Thank you.
Thank you, Azerbaijan. Move to Netherlands, please.
Thank you. We also would like to share with you the experiences of one of our experts from the Dutch Caribbean islands, Curaçao, who is a UNESCO facilitator and the secretary of the Dutch Caribbean ICH Committee. And he is involved in several projects concerning ICH in emergency. And I'm reading his words. In documents of the 12th session of the committee, the discussions pointed to a future direction that privileges community-based identifications of needs concerning the safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage and links between intangible cultural heritage and disaster risk management. It is important to stress the role of both aspects of these discussions. It's only if they are seen as acting in tandem that the full extent ICH in emergencies may be understood and be used towards a sustainable future. In the capacity building work, it has become obvious that ICH related to emergencies is not always a concept that is widely understood. At the same time, when looking at safeguarding ICH, people tend to forget the active role ICH could play in preparing for emergencies. Awareness raising, capacity building, and training of implementing actors around both roles of ICH is crucial. There's also the need to adapt post-disaster needs assessments to not only include ICH as another factor to be assessed, but also as a potential resource that can be used for recovery efforts. Besides cooperation between institutes, it might be useful to also utilize UNESCO's own network with a focus on emergencies. Facilitators network, Category 2 centers, accreditees, NGOs and other regional UNESCO network actors have functioned as mediators in fact-finding teams and as relief facilitators. There might be use in sharing good practices, both within and across regions. Similarly, the NGO forum might be a very appropriate space for the exchange of knowledge. The regional meetings that were held in the past certainly helped create a knowledge base. Having emergencies as a specific topic would help bring this information to the communities, groups, and individuals. Judging from the success of the NGO Forum publication on traditional medicine, this might be one way to also disseminate this information to other actors. The Netherlands supported the regional approaches to disaster recovery and heritage preservation organized in June and August 2018 in collaboration with the government of Sint Maarten. One of the outcomes of that meeting is the planned creation of a Caribbean Heritage Emergency Network, and that network is intended to fully incorporate ICH in the heritage system. That is what our expert is recommending, and we very much appreciate the work on ICH in emergency by the Secretariat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Netherlands. Austria, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, Austria would also like to express its gratitude to the Secretariat for the efforts made to organize initiatives and community-based interventions for the safeguarding of ICH in emergencies. And actually, I would like to introduce you to another relevant and compelling example in this regard, which is Cunningham's post-disaster research in Nepal, which was conducted after the 2015 Gorkha earthquake. I hope I pronounced it right. The research project was presented in Vienna a couple of weeks ago by academics and heritage practitioners from Nepal, Austria, Germany, and the UK, who have developed research methods and approaches for protecting and preserving the cultural heritage of Nepal. This research emphasizes that ICH plays a significant role during post-emergency phases and the reconstruction of destructed monument sites. It also presents the interdisciplinary heritage ecosystem approach for the protection and safeguarding of cultural heritage with the participation of local communities, particularly in the face of future earthquakes in this region. This approach includes an assessment of historic construction practices, traditional construction skills and materials, and the links between local communities, the built environment, and social practices. Austria welcomes the initiatives concerning the development of methodological guidance in order to better understand the various methods of community-based support for the safeguarding of ICH in cases of emergency. And we would recommend considering the expertise of the UNESCO Chair on Archaeological Ethics and Practice in Cultural Heritage in this matter. And finally, I would like to thank the People's Republic of China for its generous contribution to this important matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Austria. China, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. China appreciates the Secretariat for preparing the information and some activities regarding this topic of ICH in emergencies. We are getting more and more concerned about this issue as more and more ICH in many state parties are threatened under the natural disasters or conflicts. And we do believe that many countries, many state parties do share this various experience in encountering the natural disasters or conflicts. For instance, also in China, we do suffer from severe earthquakes in years like 2008 in Wenchuan and 2010 in Yushu, which brought us to reflect seriously on what can be done to safeguard ICH on one hand, and on the other, how ICH can help to rebuild social cohesion and identity of the communities who are suffered from the disasters. That is why China would like to support for organizing an experts meeting to share the experiences and knowledges by all state parties we are confronting the same situation, and hope to result in some outcome guidance so that we could benefit all from these results. Thank you.
Thank you, China. Philippines, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We view this item with keen interest as it remains highly relevant to the application of the Convention to natural disasters and conflict situations. With respect to the analysis of community-based needs identification in North Kivu in the Democratic Republic of Congo, we agree that the revitalization of cultural spaces is an important aspect to consider in post-conflict or disaster situations. In relation to the Revive the Spirit of Mosul initiative, developing an inventory of elements affected by an emergency would be a good initial step in an emergency context. We have stated in the last committee session that we hope to see UNESCO cooperate and coordinate with more than with other relevant UN agencies, and we thank the Secretariat for stating the names of the UN agencies that will be helping in this endeavor. Besides compiling the lessons learned and analysis, what would be important is testing any potential guidance on ICH in emergencies in the field, applying them in real-world situations. The Philippines will be very interested in potentially working with the committee and Secretariat in this endeavor. And finally, we thank China for the proposed, for its generous support in the proposed experts group meeting in 2019. We would just like to ask when in 2019 will the experts meeting be planned. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Philippines. Cuba, please.
Gracias, señora Presidenta. Nuestra delegación desea agradecer a la Secretaría por la información presentada. Nos parece que esto es un tema de especial sensibilidad en que la UNESCO ha venido trabajando con mayor intencionalidad en los últimos 2 años. La organización aprobó un plan de acción para reforzar el trabajo de la UNESCO para proteger el patrimonio cultural en casos de conflicto armado y situaciones de catástrofe, lo que generó también la adopción en el Consejo de Seguridad de la Resolución 2347, en la que se reconoce que la destrucción del patrimonio cultural es un crimen de guerra y así también incluye el componente cultural a las misiones de mantenimiento de la paz con pleno consentimiento de los Estados miembros, por lo que creo que el contexto es favorable para que nos unamos todos en pos de la protección del patrimonio. Y siempre, a juicio de Cuba, la labor de la UNESCO ha estado centrada en una labor preventiva y posconflicto también. Y en eso yo creo que es importante desarrollar toda una base de datos de las buenas prácticas que se establecen para ello. Y estoy pensando en el caso de las islas del Caribe, de los pequeños estados insulares en desarrollo, que son profundamente afectados por catástrofes naturales, por los ciclones, que han ya dejado huellas importantes en el patrimonio cultural, no solo muebles, sino también el patrimonio inmaterial, como las migraciones y otros fenómenos que hoy afectan y constituyen retos globales. En el caso de Cuba tenemos un grupo de experiencias, por ejemplo, después de los ciclones o de los huracanes, brigadas de artistas salen a lo largo de todo el país a promover la cultura y a preservar aquellos valores en situaciones bien complicadas que viven los pueblos y sufren las comunidades cuando pasan este tipo de situaciones. Creo que la UNESCO debe tratar de comenzar a compilar buenas prácticas que se realizan en todos los lugares en este sentido y reforzar su labor preventiva para preparar y fortalecer capacidades en este sentido. Me gustaría conocer cómo se implica la Convención de Patrimonio Inmaterial en ese plan de acción que tiene aprobada la UNESCO, que pasamos 2 años negociando, que se aprobó, pero vemos que existe todavía algunas desconexiones entre las convenciones y quizás nos gustaría que para próximos informes esta información quedara mucho más clara de cuáles son las contribuciones que sabemos que las hace, lo vemos en el informe, pero de cara a este plan de acción que aprobamos en la 38 Conferencia General. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Cuba. I still have 6 members of the committee. I have Colombia, Lebanon, Poland, Kuwait, Jamaica, and Sri Lanka. I'll proceed to Colombia now, please.
Gracias, presidente. Con su venia, le quisiera pedir a la Secretaría poner la foto del Foro de la Paz de París, que se presentó en el momento del informe. Agradecería a la Secretaría devolverse a ese archivo y presentar en pantalla la foto del Foro de la Paz de París. Y en ese sentido, Presidenta, va la intervención de Colombia. El Foro de la Paz de París presentó 120 proyectos que construyen paz en varias categorías, paz y seguridad, desarrollo sostenible, nuevas tecnologías. 120 proyectos que fueron identificados de 850 proyectos que llegaron de todo el mundo. Este proyecto que presentó Colombia se desarrolla en el norte de Colombia, en el Caribe, en un municipio donde las FARC tuvieron una acción durante mucho tiempo. Hoy es un municipio donde se encuentran excombatientes de las FARC con comunidad local. Y el patrimonio, la memoria, es el vínculo que hoy les permite encontrarse, reencontrarse, es la posibilidad del diálogo y de la resiliencia. Es un proyecto que hoy está en marcha gracias al Fondo de Patrimonio Inmaterial y que va finalmente a producir una metodología. Como un ejercicio de inventario puede ser finalmente un diálogo y puede construir resiliencia. Así que queremos compartir este proyecto. En esa foto está nuestro presidente, nuestro ministro de Exteriores, que es el presidente de la Comisión Nacional de Cooperación con la UNESCO, está el subdirector general de Cultura de la UNESCO y nuestra experta en patrimonio inmaterial, pero sobre todo está una comunidad de excombatientes y de trabajadores, de personas que le apuestan a la paz a través del poder del patrimonio cultural inmaterial. Gracias, Presidenta.
Thank you, Colombia. Lebanon.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je remercie le secrétariat pour ce rapport qui montre que la réflexion avance sur ce sujet et qu'elle est sur la bonne voie. J'aimerais bien faire part de notre expérience au Liban, comme nous avons une grande tradition de recherche sur le sujet, et notamment sur les guerres civiles et les conflits armés. Et c'est à ce titre que j'aimerais bien poser deux questions qui pourraient peut-être aussi enrichir la réflexion. D'abord, j'aimerais bien savoir si la question du retour des déplacés à leur lieu d'origine, à leur localité d'origine, est posée. Nous avons fait l'expérience au Liban de ce retour avec plusieurs recherches et nous avons constaté que ce qui bloque les populations, c'est la question de l'oubli. Quand le déplacement forcé s'inscrit dans la longue durée, les vieilles générations disparaissent et les jeunes qui reviennent sont désarmés. Ils veulent bien restituer leur savoir et leur savoir-faire, mais ils n'y arrivent pas à cause justement de cet oubli. On parle souvent de mémoire, mais cette mémoire n'est pas facile à reconstituer. Le deuxième point, ou la deuxième question à laquelle je voulais poser est celle des conflits armés qui deviennent actuellement, dans un monde globalisé, de plus en plus, qui s'oriente vers les guerres civiles, et donc dans lesquelles les États constituent en même temps des belligérants. Donc, ils sont partie prenante de la guerre civile. Est-ce que l'UNESCO a réfléchi aux modalités qui pourraient permettre aux communautés en conflit avec l'État donc de bénéficier de ce processus de sauvegarde? Donc, l'UNESCO passe toujours par le créneau de l'État et donc beaucoup de communautés restent en marge de la sauvegarde du patrimoine culturel immatériel parce qu'elles sont en guerre contre l'État. Merci.
Thank you, Lebanon. Poland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We welcome with special interest the proposal submitted by Secretariat in the light of the, just mentioned, document prepared in Poland in May of this year. Its Warsaw meeting was fully dedicated to recovery and reconstruction of cultural heritage, but in light of 1972 Convention. But it is impossible to speak about the possible division between these two conventions in case of armed conflict. And so local community plays crucial role in the process of recovery, because personal and social memory is in fact the most important. So local community, in this case, the bearer of memory, is a bearer of possibility to live again, to start a life as a social group, and to start a life in this environment, destructed in this environment, which was diminished by conflicts. Because so we would like to stress the importance of this matter of the document prepared by Secretariat. We would like to thank very much Secretariat for this preparation. As well, we would like to thank China for supporting this activity in this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Poland. Kuwait.
صباح الخير. وفد دولة الكويت يشكر السكرتارية على تقريرهم وعلى العمل الذي يقومون به في مجال النزاعات المسلحة والكوارث ولأعضاء اللجنة لمشاركة تجاربهم، ونرحب في أي مبادرات تعزز حماية التراث. شكراً. مع الشكر.
Thank you, Kuwait. Jamaica, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jamaica thanks the Secretariat for the report on this very significant issue. Caribbean countries are often impacted by extreme weather conditions such as hurricanes and earthquakes, which have become increasingly severe over the past few years as a result of climate change. The displacement of communities and the need to safeguard ICH as a result of these various disasters is of paramount importance. Jamaica welcomes the actions taken in the African, Arab, and Caribbean regions. In fact, after the 2017 hurricanes, the planned development of the Caribbean Heritage Protection Network is really appreciated. Jamaica therefore supports the expert meeting to be held in 2019 and looks forward to the upcoming work in this regard for the benefit of us all. Jamaica also thanks the People's Republic of China for its contribution towards this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamaica. We still have Sri Lanka, Armenia, and Djibouti. Sri Lanka, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a country that experienced the 30-year internal conflict and the Asian tsunami in 2004, we fully understand the destructive effects of natural disasters and conflicts on ICH. We still experience disasters caused by floods and landslides annually, causing serious damage to ICH. At the same time, we understand the potential of ICH in recovery and reconciliation efforts. However, right now we do not have a local program in place in Sri Lanka as a preparatory measures. So we appreciate the work that has been already done by the Secretariat in this regard. Therefore, we fully agree with the previous speakers and express Sri Lanka's support for the UNESCO's future plans on this matter. We also thank China for its intended workshops and other plans to safeguard ICH in disastrous and conflict situations in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sri Lanka. Armenia, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. It's amazing to see you chairing this session. Armenia strongly supports the issue of safeguarding intangible cultural heritage in emergency situations. And we also strongly support UNESCO programs in these areas of its competence. We fully support efforts to safeguard cultural heritage in conflict zone and condemn attacks on cultural symbols because of their diverse origin, all belonging to a national or religious minority. In that regard, I would like to refer to the Revive the Spirit of Mosul initiative and warmly welcome the acceptance of Armenia's offer to engage our specialists in this project. We reiterate again our readiness to join efforts with UNESCO in promoting the preservation of cultural and historical heritage of mankind, both in its intangible and tangible forms, as this matter remains a serious issue of concern, not only in the event of hostilities, but during the time of peace as well, when the ethnic belonging of monuments has served as a sentence for their intentional destruction. It is through the acknowledgement and respect for diversity of world's cultures and cultural expressions that we, as human beings, come to understand and appreciate the core values and aspirations that make humanity united and allow us to preserve heritage for future generations. And I thank you.
Thank you, Armenia. The last speaker from the committee members, Djibouti, please.
Merci Madame la Présidente. En ce qui concerne ce point de l'ordre du jour, la délégation djiboutienne reste très préoccupée par la situation du PCI dans la situation d'urgence, d'autant plus que nous avons cette longue expérience depuis l'indépendance de Djibouti en 1977. Nous étions toujours confrontés à des conflits armés dans la Corne de l'Afrique. Et à ce niveau, il est important de souligner le rôle que le travail qu'est en train d'effectuer le secrétariat de la Convention, auquel je félicite et qui fait un excellent travail. Nous soutenons le programme et la campagne de sensibilisation et les voies à suivre proposées. Mais si je reviens pour le cas de Djibouti, pour notre propre expérience, actuellement à Djibouti, nous avons beaucoup de réfugiés qui sont venus de l'extérieur, du Yémen par exemple, dernièrement, et avec l'Organisation internationale des migrants, nous arrivons à ratifier plusieurs conventions, les intégrant dans la prise en compte de leur éducation, de leur santé, ainsi que de la prise en compte de leur PCI. Et je pense que c'est à ce niveau que c'est une voie également à suivre qu'il faut intégrer les communautés étrangères qui se retrouvent dans leur pays étant en danger. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, committee members, for your valuable contributions, opinions, and for sharing your experiences. I would like to ask the Secretary now to comment, answer the questions. Mr. Secretary, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, and I would like to thank the committee members who have made encouraging remarks on the work we are doing and the direction we are going. And I'd like to thank Azerbaijan for their proposed assistance in the follow-up to the meeting in June and the expert meeting. I take note also that Palestine and to a certain degree China tended to prefer the idea of modalities or guidance rather than going straight to operational directives, and we will keep this in mind as we move towards the next General Assembly, as this was a question I was hoping to hear from the floor. Also, Austria's mentioning of working with the chair and the chairs in particular. The Philippines asked me a couple of questions and made, first of all, a comment on working in real-world situations, which is indeed very important and something we are starting to do a little. But there's, with two categories, let's say, of emergencies, one being more on the natural disaster and the other one being more on the conflict side, you can imagine with natural disasters, it's obviously not possible to plan where we go, and we feel that we really must be sure of what we're doing, and certainly not interfering with established humanitarian responses before we intervene. But we're starting to gain some experience in that regard, and we'll be reporting on it. Cuba also asked a couple of questions related to, indeed, why not see our work as we are developing as going towards a creation of databases of good practices. I hear also that there's a direction we can go, guidelines, database, good practices around these around these issues of how to deal with ICH in situations of emergency. And I think the next question from Cuba was, how is the intangible cultural heritage integrated in the action plan on cultural heritage in situations of disaster? Indeed, this was, I mean, it's integrated, let's say, from a conceptual point, but when we started this discussion was an acknowledgement that methodologies and means of intervening for built heritage are far more established than there are in intangible cultural heritage. So we are engaging as much as possible, and it is there in the action plan, and we're aligned to the action plan. And indeed, these committee items and the idea of bringing to the General Assembly for guidance or for methodological tools, whichever, are part of being better integrated in that action plan. And in fact, the fact of that action plan is precisely how this multiple sessions in these committees, I think, initiated, because the realization that the issues surrounding intangible cultural heritage in emergencies are as important but methodologically different to built heritage or approaches. So there was another, if I may, there was a couple of questions also from Lebanon. Oh, sorry. I realized the Philippines also asked when the expert meeting would be held. The expert meeting is planned to be held in June next year, June. So, and there was two questions from Lebanon, if I may. The first was about long-term displaced people or refugees and their return. We we are planning an activity directly related to that, which is the result of an activity UNESCO commenced through its office in Dar es Salaam at the time in Tanzania about 10 years ago concerning long-term Burundian returnees, where we initiated an ICH-related project in the camps to prepare children to go back to Burundi after many, many years. And what we intend to do in the next few months or in the leading up to the expert meeting is to do an assessment of those children now that they have returned and 10 years after to see how our interventions helped. But of course, if one thinks of the Mosul, Revive the Spirit of Mosul, in fact, this issue is right in the middle of it. So yes, we are considering that in some ways as the opportunities come up. But again, these long-term issues are also part of the issue, the returnees issues. Whether or not they are considered directly as situations of emergency, but we are trying to broaden that, and we will hopefully be returning with our experience next year on those projects that we've mentioned. And the other one was modalities for communities to work without necessarily going through the state. Obviously, that's a contextual situation. The main thing is being, should we go in these areas? It has to be in the framework of, agreed United Nations operations, and with the infrastructure, if you will, and I don't mean built infrastructure, but infrastructure of peacekeeping, humanitarian actions. So depending on those infrastructures is where I think UNESCO's ability to maneuver in these areas lies. I'm not sure if I've missed any questions, and if any committee member feels I've missed a specific question, I'm quite willing to, I think.
Palestine?
Shukran, Sayyid al-Rais. Actually, no, you didn't miss a question, but I have a question I didn't ask it. What about the role of NGOs in this regard? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sorry. Yes, certainly. And in fact, we've worked with the work we did in Democratic Republic of Congo, had also working with some NGOs. Following the meeting I discussed with earlier that we just had recently in Lebanon, is to work in collaboration with UNHCR on guidelines with NGOs. So there's absolutely a role of NGOs to play. There's no, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. You're done? Okay, yeah. We move now to hear from the observer states, and I have on my list Greece, Switzerland, St. Lucia, Mexico, and Belize. Greece, please, can you take the floor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. On behalf of Greece, we are very pleased with the report that we received from the Secretariat, as well as with all the interventions of the committee member states on the issue. As you might remember, Greece is very interested in this issue. We initiated the dialogue in the 4th General Assembly in Paris in 2014, if I remember well, 16, if I remember well. And we are very pleased to see that this issue has gathered momentum, and the momentum is well deserved, for ICH can really show the centrality it has for people's lives, especially in difficult situations that require the mitigating of the results of risk disasters, as well as with the violent displacement of populations. I am really impressed by the list of activities that the Secretariat read and reported, and I'm really interested in the operationalization of this experience. And if I may, we would be interested more in seeing this operationalization in the form of directives immediately in the next General Assembly, that will show how central ICH is for our lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Greece. Switzerland, please.
Madame la Présidente, merci au secrétariat pour avoir établi et expliqué l'état très réjouissant des travaux en cours. La Suisse reconnaît l'intérêt, l'importance et le potentiel de traiter cette question du PCI en danger et de définir des moyens d'action. Nous saluons la proposition d'organiser une réunion d'experts et, au-delà, de mettre sur pied une possibilité d'échanger sur des bonnes pratiques pour la sauvegarde, la revitalisation, mais aussi la réflexion sur la contribution du patrimoine vivant dans des situations d'urgence. À ce titre, la Suisse est en train de développer une stratégie pour le patrimoine en danger, matériel et immatériel, et souhaite mettre à disposition ces réflexions dans le cadre de la réflexion des experts en juin et de son suivi. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Switzerland. St. Lucia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, this is the first time you are hearing the voice of St. Lucia in this meeting, so let me join all others in thanking Mauritius for the generous hosting. Let me also say a big thank you and congratulations to the Secretariat for the tremendous work they appear to be doing, and I'm particularly impressed with the progress that has been made in this particular area of emergencies. I am joining the voice of the Caribbean and strengthening the voice of the Caribbean as expressed by Jamaica in this area. We are one of the most vulnerable parts of the world in respect to this. Hurricanes strike us every year. It is not an if, it is not an if, it is a when. And in this regard, I'm appealing that we do not only look at this issue as in emergencies, but in preparation, strengthening ourselves in preparation from it. It is not only when the hurricane strikes us that we need to strengthen ourselves and build our resilience and how we recover, but the hurricane will strike us, and we need to prepare for it. So I'm encouraging us to look at building our preparatory strength in this area. Madam Chair, listening to all of the presentations before me, it just dawns on me that just within us in this convention, there is a tremendous amount of strength and experience and resources across all these countries. And I'm encouraging the Secretariat not only to centralize that response, but probably to develop communication mechanisms among us, just within the countries within the Secretariat, that we can get quick responses and quick support across direct communication mechanisms between us, the state parties in the convention. Secondly, I also want to connect with Cuba. Cuba started an interesting observation of synergies across the conventions. And as we prepare for this meeting of experts, I am asking that among the experts we ensure that we have experts in the tangible heritage itself, because with our experience with hurricanes, one of the biggest destructions is in spaces that house and shelter the intangible heritage. And I think it will be worth our while to have within this meeting bring the cooperation of tangible and intangible experts together rather than one doing one that side and another doing that side. Okay, so preparatory strength, synergies across tangible and intangible heritage, and helping to develop communication mechanisms that we can reach across to each other. Okay, not just to the Secretariat for help, but direct and almost immediate communication across directly with each other. If you can help us develop these mechanisms, it will be good. So I say a big thank you to China for the support for this experts meeting, and I look forward to the work in the coming period. Thank you very much.
Thank you, St. Lucia. I still have Mexico and Belize. Does anyone else would like to register to speak? No, okay, so Mexico, please.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Por supuesto que agradecemos mucho la oportunidad de expresarnos en este tema tan importante, donde podemos unir y donde podemos ligar dos aspectos importantísimos del patrimonio cultural. En este caso, no solamente del patrimonio inmaterial, sino también aquella otra faceta que tiene que ver con el patrimonio de la Convención de 1972. Respondo solamente a un tema que me parece crucial y que ayer tuvimos oportunidad con un miembro de la Secretaría de tocar, especialmente sensible en este momento, que son los movimientos que se están creando en términos de la necesidad de refugiados y que confrontan fundamentalmente, en este caso de mi región, a algunos países centroamericanos que están yendo a buscar otras oportunidades en latitudes más meridionales y septentrionales. Es decir, que hay algunos miembros de los países de Centroamérica que están yendo hacia Estados Unidos y donde todavía no se ve claro cuáles son las medidas que se están adoptando para, en todo caso, la salvaguardia del patrimonio cultural inmaterial. Yo quisiera solamente dejarlo en la agenda como un tema fundamental que tenemos que afrontar en un futuro muy próximo, y me parece que la reunión que tendrá lugar en París en junio próximo tendrá un sitio para verlo con mayor detenimiento. Solamente quisiéramos que la Secretaría recogiera este punto fundamental, porque además es un fenómeno enormemente complejo en términos de su movilidad y de saber cuáles son las medidas tanto oficiales como las medidas que adopta la sociedad civil para responder a estas expectativas de la salvaguardia del patrimonio cultural inmaterial y también de la otra fase que tiene que ver con los sitios. Solamente quisiera recordar por último que México sufrió una serie de sismos y temblores. Desde hace 2 años apelamos a la ayuda de la UNESCO y creo que las lecciones que se han obtenido con respecto a esta reconstrucción son interesantes y se pueden compartir en este foro de manera muy clara, porque esto demanda establecer una acción conjunta y muy orquestada para que los resultados sean mejores y sean visibles para toda la gente que está en este problema de la reconstrucción. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Mexico. Belize, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everybody. Since this is the first time Belize is taking the floor, I'd like to thank the people and government of Mauritius for the wonderful hosting of this meeting. With respect to the topic being discussed, I also want to congratulate the Secretariat on the work that has been done thus far. In terms of the substance of the discussion, I want to preamble my comments by saying that I'm aware, as one example, of the initiative undertaken by the Secretariat to update the guidance note on the inventorying to provide insights on the links between disaster risk management and inventorying. This is an important step. However, I'd like to make a general request for a more proactive approach which deals with the root causes of crisis induced in particular by human actions and social conditions. Note that I have made the distinction, the emphasis in the Caribbean, especially where we are from, has been on the hurricanes and earthquakes and so on. But Belize, because of its geographic location, is both Central American and Caribbean, and we have been witness to, for example, the caravans that have been heading north toward the United States. That is a major situation unfolding in the region. And so the emphasis then on human actions and social conditions. I know the request to be proactive in this regard is a difficult one, and I know this must be done in conjunction with UN agencies, some of which have already been done. So with respect to UN agencies, I can think of several countries that have been involved with, for example, the settlement, whether temporarily or permanently, of refugees from within the region. So in that sense, I would like to request that perhaps the Secretariat could undertake to do case studies with these countries that have settled refugees to see how these states deal with the issue of ICH as a component of the process of settlement, either temporarily or permanently. I can think of several in our own region. I know some states philosophically are concerned with issues of their nationalistic issues concerned, and so may be concerned that the local cultures may be threatened. But from some experiences I've seen, states may, if they really consider the social and processes of assimilation and social integration, states may be better able to manage some of these human-induced crises in particular if we're more proactive. States have varying conditions within, and so then it almost requires a case-by-case basis, but in order to think ahead proactively, I would like to request discussions with states that have been involved in processes of settlement and dealing with refugees. Thanks.
Thank you, Belize. I have Burkina Faso, please.
Ok. Ben, merci. Merci donc, monsieur, madame. Et autant, comme c'est la première fois que le Burkina Faso prend la parole, je remercie donc le pays hôte. C'est déjà navrant que nous sommes en train de vouloir de plier bagages parce que déjà le travail nous attend à la maison, mais bon, je crois qu'on aura encore d'autres occasions pour revenir encore dans ce magnifique pays. Merci vraiment pour tous les efforts qui ont été consentis pour mettre vraiment à l'aise toutes les délégations. Alors, par rapport à la réflexion qui serait menée, je crois que le Sahel également est confronté à ces genres de situations vraiment difficiles, notamment, donc, je vais parler donc de l'extrémisme violent. Et c'est une question sur laquelle on se penche de plus en plus dans mon pays, parce que vous savez bien qu'avec le terrorisme, maintenant avec le groupe terroriste, il y a vraiment, l'espace est en train donc de s'agrandir et ça devient un peu plus compliqué pour nous et pour les communautés également aussi. Et pas plus tard que le mois dernier, le ministère donc de la Culture a organisé un atelier qui s'est penché donc sur cette thématique-là. Comment est-ce que le patrimoine culturel immatériel, bon évidemment le patrimoine, la culture tout simplement, pourrait participer donc à la résilience, pourrait participer donc au dialogue de la culture, au dialogue donc des communautés afin d'instaurer donc la paix au sein des communautés. Et c'est pour vraiment justement apporter la voix du pays à vraiment mener cette réflexion afin que cela puisse bénéficier donc à toute la communauté. Merci bien.
Thank you. I move now to NGOs. Please, before giving you the floor, can I ask you to state your name and then speak? Thank you. And the name of your organization, actually. Okay.
Merci. Merci Madame la Présidente. Christiane Johanno-Gradis de l'ONG Tradition pour Demain. Permettez-moi en préambule de remercier la Palestine de sa question sur les ONG, parce que nous pensons nous aussi qu'elles ont un rôle important à jouer dans ces situations d'urgence. Madame la Présidente, notre ONG s'associe aux interventions intérieures pour saluer les efforts du secrétariat et les États partis pour mener des interventions visant à la sauvegarde du patrimoine immatériel en cas d'urgence, soit en cas de conflit armé ou de catastrophe naturelle. Nous tenons aussi à saluer tout particulièrement les efforts de collaboration que le secrétariat a développé avec des organismes internationaux, onusiens ou non, et en particulier avec la rapporteuse spéciale pour les droits culturels et le Haut Commissariat des droits de l'homme. Ces initiatives de coordination constituent pour notre ONG, qui y a activement participé, une approche indispensable au regard de l'importance de la tâche à accomplir. Nous accueillons favorablement la réunion d'experts qui est prévue en juin 2019, qui va certainement être une étape essentielle pour aider les États à mettre en place les institutions, structures et programmes visant à la sauvegarde du PCI en cas d'urgence, notamment en ciblant les autorités clés, en définissant les stratégies de formation ainsi que les moyens pour le faire. Cela étant, notre ONG considère qu'il serait aussi important de poursuivre parallèlement les efforts déjà menés depuis quelques années à l'intérieur de l'UNESCO pour développer des synergies entre ces conventions culturelles afin d'amplifier leur impact de préservation du patrimoine culturel, tant matériel qu'immatériel. Comme l'a évoqué la rapportrice de l'organe d'évaluation dans son excellent rapport, un rapprochement s'est déjà opéré avec la Convention de 1972, notamment dans des situations où les activités du PCI se déployaient sur un site ou un élément du patrimoine mondial. Notre ONG suggère que ces efforts de synergie se poursuivent aussi avec la Convention de 1954 sur la protection des biens culturels en cas de conflit armé pour les situations d'urgence qui concernent de tels conflits. Deux raisons principales nous paraissent militer en faveur de telles initiatives. En premier lieu, parce qu'en cas de conflit armé, c'est cette convention qui s'applique prioritairement. Or, vu son grand âge, cette convention connaît une large application et mise en œuvre, notamment de ses dispositions obligeant les États à désigner les autorités compétentes, à les former, surtout les forces armées, et à identifier les biens protégés. Les efforts de sauvegarde du PCI pourraient s'appuyer sur ces acquis lorsque des activités du PCI se déroulent sur des biens culturels répertoriés. La deuxième raison est que, à la différence de la Convention de 1972, les biens culturels sous protection générale de la Convention de 1954 sont choisis exclusivement par les seuls États détenteurs. Ces biens ici sont de ce fait considérablement plus nombreux et sont d'ailleurs fréquemment choisis en raison d'activités du PCI qui s'y déroulent. Là, à nouveau, un rapprochement avec la Convention de 1954 pour s'avérer bénéfique pour les activités du PCI qui se déroulent dans de tels sites. Pour ces raisons, Tradition pour Demain propose que des contacts plus fournis se poursuivent pour développer des synergies entre la Convention de 2003 et la Convention de 1954. Nous rappelons à cet égard que lors de ces dernières sessions, le comité du deuxième protocole à la Convention de 1954 a adopté des décisions selon lesquelles il s'engageait à favoriser de telles synergies, et en particulier avec la Convention de 2003. Merci Madame la Présidente.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to take the floor? I see no one. Mr. Secretary, would you like to? Belgium, please.
Oui, madame. Je tiens à rebondir par rapport à ce que vient de dire l'interlocutrice précédente et étant membre de du comité de la Convention de la Haye et de la mise en œuvre de son second protocole, nous avons effectivement à cœur, au sein de toutes nos interventions, de favoriser les synergies entre les conventions, tant la Convention du patrimoine mondial, auquel nous sommes aussi partie prenante, que la Convention de la Haye, sur laquelle nous essayons, tant pour les aspects d'ailleurs mobiliers et aussi la Convention de 1970, que pour cette convention-ci, de mettre les acteurs de terrain ensemble, notamment en Belgique au sein de la CIDF, donc la Commission interministérielle de droit humanitaire, qui essaye de prendre tous les aspects en considération. Et donc, ce type d'organisme, je pense, peut exister dans d'autres pays, de manière à ce que tous les acteurs du patrimoine, y compris le niveau humanitaire par ailleurs, se rassemblent. Et donc, je tiens vraiment à soutenir ce type d'initiative.
Thank you. Would you like to make any comments, Mr. Secretary?
Thank you. I'll try to cover some of the main comments made, perhaps not in too much detail, and I hope I'm not missing anything important. We noticed from a number of states requests to intervene in certain areas here and there. It's important also to understand the resources available to UNESCO are not illimited. So we think the best way is to partner with those who have the resources and are working in those areas, and to make them aware and work with them to integrate intangible cultural heritage into their perspectives, notably concerning humanitarian situations, and also these situations which are situations of refugees or displaced persons or moving persons or people separated from their places of living. The idea of communication mechanisms was mentioned. That is a very interesting idea, which could be discussed and perhaps more elaborated. Also, the synergies issues. A number talked about synergies with tangible heritage or with other conventions. Of course, we are always trying to work in synergies, and I think, as was mentioned initially by the delegate of Cuba, there is an action plan that covers all the conventions that was adopted by the General Conference of UNESCO. And indeed, what we are doing here is bringing working methodologies to be able to better integrate for the implementation of that action plan. So we are working towards synergies, but again, as I said in my earlier statement, intangible heritage was a bit behind some of the other methodologies in terms of intervening in these situations, and I believe we're moving forward and catching up, and we'll be able to better integrate. But I suppose the answer to a lot of those questions, I think, has to be our work with partners, be they NGOs, and I do wish to reiterate that works with NGOs is very important in the field of intangible cultural heritage, and there's a role to play, or UN humanitarian agencies, etc. I'm not sure if I've answered all the questions, but that was what I will say.
Thank you. I still have Senegal as our last intervention before moving to the... And what? Okay.
Merci,
and
Madame la
Djibouti. Okay,
Présidente.
Senegal, please.
Le Sénégal donc voudrait apprécier la pertinence donc de cette thématique de ce matin, surtout l'utilisation des éléments du patrimoine culturel, n'est-ce pas, dans la résolution des conflits. Et le Sénégal a vécu une expérience de cette nature. Vous savez très bien que dans la zone sud du Sénégal, dans la zone qu'on appelle la Casamance, cette région a été vraiment secouée par un irrédentisme qui a occasionné donc quelque part un conflit. Mais l'État du Sénégal a joué sur les éléments de patrimoine pour quelque part donc apaiser ce conflit. Comment? En jouant sur ce qu'on appelle le cousinage à plaisanterie. Vous savez très bien que la zone sud, il y a une ethnie majoritaire au niveau de la zone sud en Casamance, c'est l'ethnie Diola. Et cette ethnie Diola est un cousin à plaisanterie d'une autre ethnie du Sénégal qu'on appelle l'ethnie Sérère. C'est l'ethnie de Léopold Sédar Senghor. Alors l'État du Sénégal a joué maintenant sur ce cousinage à plaisanterie parce qu'un Diola ne fera jamais de mal à un Sérère. Et un Sérère aussi ne fera jamais de mal à un Diola. Cause pour laquelle donc, les négociations qui ont été tenues pour apaiser ce conflit se tenaient régulièrement en pays serrère. Par exemple, dans la ville de Foundiougne, qui se trouve en pays serrère dans la région de Fatick, là, il y a ce qu'on appelle les négociations de Foundiougne 1 et Foundiougne 2 qui ont permis justement de circonscrire ce conflit et d'apaiser le conflit en Casamance. Donc ça, c'est l'utilisation d'un élément du patrimoine culturel, n'est-ce pas, pour apaiser ces conflits-là. La deuxième chose, toujours pour ce qui explique quelque part le climat social paisible au niveau du Sénégal, c'est aussi l'utilisation de ce cousinage à plaisanterie, même sur le plan de la religion. Au Sénégal, il y a ce qu'on appelle les confréries religieuses dans l'islam. Il y a la Tijaniya, il y a aussi la Mouridia. Entre la Tijaniya et la Mouridia, il y a aussi des relations de cousinage à plaisanterie qui tendent effectivement à apaiser justement le climat social. Ça, c'est l'islam qui est utilisé, n'est-ce pas, avec le tréfonds culturel, avec donc, comment dirais-je, le patrimoine culturel. De la même façon aussi, le dialogue islamo-chrétien est à promouvoir aussi pour lutter contre l'irrédentisme. Notre ami du Burkina Faso a parlé de la problématique, bien sûr, donc, de ces mouvements terroristes dans le Sahel. Au Sénégal, l'État du Sénégal promeut le dialogue islamo-chrétien. Et c'est pourquoi, quand il y a une fête religieuse chrétienne, cette fête est célébrée par tout le Sénégal. Même les musulmans s'associent aux chrétiens dans leur fête. Que ce soit la fête de Pâques, que ce soit la fête de Noël, c'est tout le monde qui le fête. De la même façon aussi, quand il y a une fête religieuse musulmane, les chrétiens aussi s'associent aux musulmans pour fêter avec les musulmans. De sorte que donc, il y a ce climat de cordialité sur fond de cousinage à plaisanterie, mais aussi sur fond de dialogue des cultures qui fait qu'effectivement donc on lutte quelque part contre les conflits. C'est une expérience que je voudrais partager avec vous. Oui, et même du point de vue des cimetières. Au Sénégal, nous constatons des cimetières mixtes où il y a des musulmans et des chrétiens qui sont enterrés dans le même cimetière. On en a à Ziguinchor, on en a à Joal-Fadiouth. Donc tout cela est à mettre effectivement à profit comme expérience et bonne pratique qui pourrait aider justement donc à résoudre ces conflits-là. Merci Madame la Présidente.
Thank you. Djibouti.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Je voudrais un peu ressouligner un point que j'avais évoqué dans mon entière intervention. Il s'agissait de relations entre l'UNESCO. Mon point portait sur les relations entre l'UNESCO et l'Organisation internationale des migrations, qui intervient au niveau des réfugiés déplacés, au niveau de l'éducation et de la santé. Ça, c'est un premier point, mais également avec le Haut Commissariat de réfugiés également. Ce serait une bonne chose. Je vous remercie.
Would you like to answer, Mr. Secretary?
Merci. Juste pour répondre à la dernière question, c'est exactement ce que nous cherchons à faire. On a déjà des propositions déjà au Liban et basées sur cette expérience, on a l'intention d'essayer en particulier avec le Haut Commissariat des réfugiés, de voir des modalités de coopération dans le domaine, y compris dans le domaine du patrimoine culturel immatériel.
Thank you for all your interventions. This has been a very engaging item. Shall we move now to adopting the decision, please? Okay. Please refer to document ITH/18/13.com/11 and its draft decision in paragraph 17. Can we see it on screen, please? Yeah.
So we have some amendments?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. We have some amendments, and may I ask the committee to adopt draft decision 13.11 as shown on the screen. Let's proceed, please, paragraph by paragraph. Armenia has something to say, I think. Armenia?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a technical question, because we were distributed just the French copy of the resolution with the French amendments. Is there an English one? Yeah, but...
Please, can you answer, please?
The Secretariat did not distribute any documents. So The documents are online and on screen with the amendments we have received. Thank you.
Paragraph 1. Citing the document we have examined, do I see any objections? Adopted. What? Armenia. Okay. Paragraph 2. Recalling relevant texts of the convention. With an amendment by Palestine. Okay, it's here, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Do I have to read it all? Okay. Palestine, can you introduce the amendment, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As it appears, actually, here it's a question of legal references only, not more, in this paragraph. As for the others, actually, for example, the next one, I don't see now the number, it should be 4. It is also, we talk about the tangible. It is just to echo what we heard in the room by the different interventions regarding the synergy between conventions. And when we come to the others, I will explain it if needed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Philippines, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. We just have a technical question to the first amendment submitted by our distinguished colleague from Palestine. There's a reference to Human Rights Council resolutions, and the last one, A/HRC/37/L30. In our experience in the Human Rights Council, when a document has the L30, it's not yet the final adopted version. So we just wanted to question this, and maybe perhaps the final version should be the best reflected on the screen. Thank you.
Palestine.
I do agree fully with my colleague from Philippines, but it was difficult to find the final cut, so we rely on the secretariats to do so. Thank you.
Yes, please, Secretary.
Yeah, unfortunately, we would need some time to look into this because we just received it very, very last minute, the draft resolution, and I'm not in a position to say. So if your advice on the Secretariat's opinion at this stage is not to include, because we haven't had the time to look at it.
Palestine.
Merci Madame la Présidente. On vous fait confiance. En réalité, comme vous le savez, c'est pareil partout. Il y a toujours un code temporaire et après l'adoption finale, il y a la cote finale. Je ne sais pas s'il y a une opposition parmi les membres. Je suis flexible, mais je pense que c'est une formalité, ça ne pose aucun problème. Et on vous fait confiance et on est sûr que vous allez trouver la cote correcte. Merci.
Philippines.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we're not opposed to this amendment. We just think that the final document should be the one reflected on that L30. That's all. But we're definitely not opposed. Thank you.
Cuba.
Gracias, señora Presidenta. Cuando leíamos esta primera enmienda en este segundo párrafo, nos parecía que debíamos también hacer referencia a la resolución 2347 del Consejo de Seguridad, que reconoce la labor de la UNESCO en la protección del patrimonio cultural y, bueno, establece un grupo de medidas que constituyen, de hecho, una resolución histórica para la protección del patrimonio y la cultura. Muchas gracias.
Kuwait.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. We also agree with our colleague from Palestine that the threats to tangible and intangible cultural heritage, particularly in case of armed conflict, should be added as amended. Thank you.
Colombia.
Gracias, Presidenta. Simplemente para ir en la línea dicha por Cuba, en torno a que se incorpore la referencia a la resolución 2347 de Naciones Unidas. Gracias, Presidenta.
Palestine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, now I have the exact quote of the resolution concerned. So it will be AHRC/HRC/37/30. So we take off that's it. Thank you. Sorry, and also I do support the proposal by Cuba to include also the resolution 2347.
Lebanon.
Juste pour dire que nous appuyons les propositions de la Palestine et du Cuba.
Djibouti.
Merci Madame la Présidente. C'est pour vous dire également que nous appuyons les amendements proposés par la Palestine et Cuba. Merci.
Cyprus.
Merci Chypre, si c'est pareil, elle appuie les amendements, merci.
Jamaica.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jamaica also supports.
Sri Lanka.
Madam Chairperson, Sri Lanka also supports the recommendation.
Okay, please take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. We've been asked also to include a UN resolution, but we would like to have some indication from the floor where you would like it. Is it at the end, as on the screen?
Cuba, please.
Gracias, señora Presidenta. Jerárquicamente hubiese correspondido al Consejo de Seguridad ser la primera referencia, pero nos parece importante mantener el plan de acción de la UNESCO para reforzar la protección del patrimonio. Creo que sería antes de las resoluciones del Consejo de Derechos Humanos. O sea, preferiríamos mantener el plan de acción de la UNESCO para el fortalecimiento de su acción para la protección de la cultura y el patrimonio, aunque jerárquicamente sería primero el Consejo de Seguridad. Preferiríamos así. O sea, la referencia del Consejo de Seguridad antes de las resoluciones del Consejo de Derechos Humanos.
Thank you. Thank you, Secretary.
As our people are putting up, is this the order you see? Is this okay?
Netherlands.
Thank you. Since these resolutions are presented for the first time in the room, we think we need more time to check the references. Thank you.
Palestine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With your permission, may I request the Secretariat to reflect the name of all those who intervened to support the two resolutions? Thank you.
Can we do that? Please, can I ask those who support this amendment to raise their hands, please? The plates.
Please leave them up.
And leave them up, please. Okay, yeah. I have Sri Lanka. Please, can you keep it up? Djibouti, Poland. No, sorry, not Poland. Poland, Togo, Cyprus, Jamaica, Philippines, Lebanon, Cameroon, and Kuwait. Anyone else? Did I miss anyone? Colombia. Senegal. Okay. Do we have all the names? Yeah, I did. Do you all see your names? Any name missing? Okay. So are we ready to move on for the adoption of the paragraph as amended? Any objections? Netherlands.
Am I correct that I don't see broad support?
Kazakhstan.
Can you please add Kazakhstan's name too? Thank you.
We have broad support. Palestine.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have the name.
No, just to clarify that the Cuba and Palestine, both amendments, it became one amendment supported by everybody. So Palestine should be added also to Cuba altogether without being two amendments. It's one amendment. Thank you.
Added. So can we adopt the paragraph now? Adopted. Shall we move to paragraph 3? Which one? Paragraph 3. Expressing our support to peoples in situation of emergency. Are there any objections? Adopted. Paragraph 4. We have an amendment here. Encourages state parties to ensure that, to the extent possible, communities, groups, and individuals, including displaced persons, have access to the instruments, objects, artifacts, cultural and natural spaces and places of memory. We have the amendment here from Palestine, often also elements. Okay. Often also elements of their tangible cultural heritage and whose existence is necessary for expressing their intangible cultural heritage. Any comments? China, please.
Madam Chair, could we just ask some clarification from our distinguished delegate from Palestine for this amendment? Because we see some confused terminology here, because it is obviously referred to the 72 Convention when it refers to the elements of the tangible cultural heritage. And we also request some assistance from the Secretariat to avoid any misunderstanding in this context, in this draft decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Djibouti.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Je voudrais également souligner le fait qu'il y ait l'espace culturel et naturel qui fait référence à la Convention de 1972. Ça, c'est le premier point. Le deuxième point serait également qu'au niveau de, après les États partis à veiller à ce que dans la mesure du possible, en collaboration avec les organisations internationales, qu'on lui ajoute cette phrase, ou bien ce groupe de mots.
Can we hear from Palestine? Palestine.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. To answer our colleague from China, indeed, yes, it refers to 72 Convention, and it goes in the same direction and spirit of the synergy that has been requested by so many members, and thing that we've been following since more than 3 years now. And I salute the Belgian delegation for their efforts when they were chairing the second protocol committee. They were very, very active in this regard, which means in the synergy between conventions. So mentioning the tangible cultural heritage here, it is absolutely referring to 72, and I don't see the impediment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Secretary.
I would just like to point out that the proposed language of the first draft is referring to the ethical principles as the 6th chapter of the Blue Book, in particular paragraph 5, access of communities, groups and individuals to the instruments, objects, artifacts, cultural and natural spaces and places of memory whose existence is necessary for expressing the intangible cultural heritage should be ensured, including in situations of armed conflict. Customary practices governing access to intangible cultural heritage should be fully respected, even where these may limit broader public area. So in referring to these, situations of armed conflict are already specifically included.
Thank you. Cameroon?
Merci Madame la Présidente de m'avoir passé la parole. Moi j'ai un problème au niveau de la terminologie. Si nous faisons référence à la Convention 72, je pense que nous devons parler de biens culturels au lieu de parler d'éléments. C'est peut-être cela. Merci.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary.
Thank you. I understand that there's a desire for creating synergies between various conventions, and indeed that's an overarching principle. And I think, for instance, in the Intangible Cultural Heritage Convention, the 2003 convention, there is indeed the word elements which are used as the main way of speaking about expressions of intangible cultural heritage. Again, referring to the ethical principles, referring to the general overall action plan of the General Conference on heritage in situations of conflict, we are working in synergies with the other conventions as much as possible. So I'm not sure if it's using good resource to have detailed discussions on the synergies aspect, since they are included already in the ethical principles and also in the overall chapeau, including the first decision of the discussions of the Committee on Situations of Emergencies. Thank you.
So are we ready to adopt the paragraph? As amended, of course. No objections? Okay, amended. Move to paragraph 5. Expresses satisfaction with the efforts made to include community-based interventions for the safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage in the recovery projects and initiatives led by UNESCO in emergency contexts, including those related to the prevention of violent extremism. Any comment? Adopted. Paragraph 6. Welcomes the first steps taken to initiate dialogue with relevant UN and international bodies with a view to highlighting the, okay, we have an amendment here, Palestine, threats to intangible cultural heritage in emergencies affects the safeguard, no, I'm sorry, I think I skipped a line. Intangible cultural heritage in emergencies, particularly in case of armed conflict, both in terms of how emergencies affect the safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage and how intangible cultural heritage policies and activities can support preparedness and human relief. Armenia, please.
We would like to remain the paragraph as it is without amending it in this case.
Cyprus.
Merci Madame la Présidente, nous appuyons l'amendement. Merci.
Azerbaijan.
We would like as well to support the amendment.
Lebanon.
Idem, nous appuyons l'amendement.
Sri Lanka.
We support the amendment. Sri Lanka support the amendment.
Can I see, please, who supports the amendment? Can you raise the plates, please? Lebanon, Cyprus, Sri Lanka, Cuba, Kuwait, Jamaica, Azerbaijan, Gambia, Zambia, sorry, and Guatemala. Okay. Okay, I don't see an active support, so we have to go by, yes, Palestine.
Madam Chair, the decision making by steps that has been adopted, it says, it stipulates that if there is one opposition, then we need 1/3, and here I think we have 1/3. Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Secretary. Thank you, Palestine. So the paragraph is adopted as amended. Thank you. Cuba.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Es que hay dos enmiendas en ese párrafo y quisiera, sobre todo para clarificar, que en la segunda parte del párrafo, cuando decimos en particular, en caso de conflicto armado, sería complicado desequilibrar los dos también catástrofes naturales. Entonces quizás sabemos la urgencia que amerita un conflicto armado, no solamente el conflicto, sino post-conflicto también, que es fundamental para la protección del patrimonio inmaterial. Y me gustaría ver si habría alguna manera, si el colega de Palestina tendría alguna formulación que nos pudiera acomodar a todos en ese sentido, que no genere un desequilibrio.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, would you like to say something here? Palestine.
Peut-être pour répondre à ma collègue de Cuba, je suis d'accord avec elle. Effectivement, on fait un statut, quand on dit en particulier, on donne un statut particulier. Dans ce cas-là, on peut mettre y compris, including. Si ça te va, c'est bon? Voilà, merci bien.
Philippines, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We share the sentiments expressed by Cuba about natural disasters, so it could be including armed conflict and natural disasters. Perhaps that could be acceptable to all. Thank you.
Colombia.
Gracias, Presidenta. En el mismo sentido de Filipinas, incluir desastres naturales. Conflicto armado y desastres naturales, al mismo nivel. Gracias, directora. Presidenta.
Cuba.
Sí, gracias, señora presidenta. Nos acomoda la opción de Palestina y también pensamos un poco la manera de formular para que quede contemplado también las situaciones post-conflicto. No solamente el conflicto armado, sino post-conflicto.
Palestine.
No, just to support also the proposal of our colleague from Philippines. And if somebody has a proposal to address the last concern of our colleague from Cuba, we would appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks to the Secretariat for the drafting. Thanks.
Okay, so do you all approve the paragraph as amended? Armenia.
I have one inclusion, including in cases of armed conflict, post-conflict situations, natural disasters, and also during peacetime.
Mr. Secretary, yes, please.
I would just like to remind the floor that the various contexts of ICH in emergencies have been already defined in multiple previous decisions. And it is, of course, possible to reproduce all of those contexts in this one paragraph, if you so wish. But we are talking about situations of emergencies, including pre-conflict, post-conflict, have been decided before. Conflict, natural disasters are already included in what is being talked here because of the previous descriptions. Thank you, and because of the document itself.
So, can we adopt this paragraph as amended? Okay, adopted. We move to paragraph 7. If there's no objection, we adopt. Adopted. 8. Please read any objection. Adopted. 9. We have an amendment here by Palestine. I'll read it. Request that the Secretariat organize an individual expert meeting during the course of 2019 to conceptualize and transform the knowledge and experience acquired into methodological guidance for states parties. And the addition is or for any other relevant national or international stakeholders, and to submit the result of the meeting at its next session, and thanks the People's Republic of China for their generous contribution to this end. Any comments? Cuba.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Quería preguntarle a nuestro colega palestino, el tema de la intervención, quizás con otro término pudiera ser participación, porque sabemos que hay algunas dificultades. De hecho, fue una de las principales dificultades cuando adoptamos la estrategia de la UNESCO y el plan de acción, que cualquier tipo de intervención, cual fuese su naturaleza, tenía que ser con el pleno consentimiento de los estados concernidos. Entonces, quizás el colega de Palestina me pueda aclarar cuál es el sentido de esta intervención que él plantea, y si es posible cambiarlo por una palabra que dé lugar a lo que creo que es el espíritu de esta propuesta, que es la participación.
No confusion? It's clear, Cuba? Okay. Any other comment? Sénégal.
Nous voudrions suggérer, Monsieur le Président, au lieu de tout autre intervenant, tout autre acteur. Merci. Au lieu d'intervenant, tout autre acteur.
We use the word, if no objection, Palestine?
Well, actually, it is a matter of wording. In English, we said stakeholders. What is the equivalent of stakeholders in French? I'm not a linguist. On est flexible là-dessus, le sens est le même. Merci.
Sénégal.
Donc, on pourrait mettre partie prenante alors.
Both are okay, I think. Any other remarks? Shall we move to adopting the paragraph? Adopted. We move to paragraph 10. Slight amendment here. Palestine adds mechanisms with the support of the Secretariat. Any remarks? No? Adopted. Paragraph 11. Adopted. Okay. Palestine.
شكرا سيدتي الرئيسة. Before adopting the whole decision, actually, we did a verification, and thanks to our colleagues from Kazakhstan for helping in this issue. Actually, the final code of the decision L13, it is not 13. It is, instead of 13, it should be 17. Only the last two, yes, it should be 17. That's it. Now it is the exact one.
Hold on.
Yeah?
This is the exact number.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
RES.
Yeah, there is missing the, after the HRRC, actually for all of them, it should be the same thing also, RES/, yes.
Okay, yes. Secretary, please.
Thank you. I'm wondering if the honourable delegate from Palestine could kindly maybe explain orally what particularly this document refers to.
Actually, it talks about the current. It talks about the current situations, emergency situations in different parts of the world, and it talks about the protection of heritage in general, and particularly in cases of emergency and armed conflict. Thank you. Particularly in case of armed conflict.
Colombia.
Gracias, presidente. Quiero hacer una precisión y una aclaración, presidenta, y es que Colombia se sumó a la enmienda de Cuba en relación con la resolución 2347, específicamente a esa enmienda. Así que quiero aclarar eso, presidenta, porque estoy viendo que estamos apoyando toda la enmienda. Apoyamos lo declarado por Cuba en torno a la 2347, exactamente eso. Gracias, presidenta.
Secretary, please.
Thank you. I think it's difficult to have a last-minute change of a reference number to a document after the support has been sought, and now the document is changing numbers. This poses a problem in terms of procedure. So perhaps either we should go to whatever number, the number as was supported by the members expressed in the floor, or remove reference to this document altogether. But there was a discussion about what was adopted with a number and a reference of a specific document, and now it's being asked to be opened up again with a new reference, and we haven't had the time or the means to actually check if what was supported is the same document as what is now being referenced to. So it is the opinion of the Secretariat that either that this change of number not be accepted or not be included, or it has to be delayed and examined that indeed it is the same document.
Colombia.
Presidenta, tal como quedó registrado en este debate, Colombia se sumó a la incorporación de la resolución 2347 y es allí donde debe estar citado. Simplemente no vamos a abrir el debate, para nada vamos a abrir el debate, simplemente Colombia se sumó a la enmienda de Cuba sobre incorporar 2347, así de preciso como está en la grabación de este debate. Gracias.
Philippines.
Yes, Madam Chair, on a point of order, I think we're in the decision-making process, so it would be up to committee members to to amend or not amend, or approve or not approve. And I think I would like to thank my distinguished colleague from Poland, because our initial comment was about the L30, and in the Human Rights Council, when drafts are presented to the Human Rights Council, they're in L documents, and this, I think, resolution pertains to I think our topic of protecting culture in armed conflict. Adopted in March 2018. When it was adopted by the Human Rights Council, it became 17. So I think we're not changing the document, but we're just changing the reference. So it's not a substantive change, it's just a merely procedural change, and I think the committee has every right to do so. Thank you.
Palestine.
Just to thank our colleague from Philippines and our colleagues from Poland, and of course I support. Actually, we can put it in that case L30, and L30 it is the 17 when it becomes definitive. To be logical and to be coherent, we should use this reference. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. If the committee is happy with that, we move on. Any comments? Austria.
Well, just overall, I wanted to say that I find this a bit problematic, what we are doing right now, because not all of us are experts and know exactly what these resolutions refer to. But I will not, yeah, I can check it online, yes, but not in this short time. So, but yeah, of course, in the spirit of consensus, we will not block, but I just wanted to make this clear that I find this problematic. Yeah, thank you.
Netherlands, and then China, please.
Thank you. Yes, I would like to second the comments just made by Austria. And I would also like to ask if it's possible to put the resolutions on the screen so we can read what it's actually about. Thank you.
Thank you. China.
I'm sorry, seems that I have technical problem with that. Madam Chair, would you please...
Please, can you use your colleague's mic? Thank you.
I'm sorry for the technical problem. Madam Chair, my delegation would like to suggest that after the Secretariat explained the situation, we just, and also we still need time to check what these decisions really refer to. So at this juncture, we would like to keep the original draft decision as it is. Thank you.
So it seems we don't have enough support for paragraph 2. We have to go back to the original language here. Djibouti.
Je souscris aux différentes préoccupations exprimées par les délégations qui m'ont précédé relatives à la connaissance ou à l'accès au contenu de ces différentes résolutions.
Okay. So shall we go back to the original draft? Colombia.
Presidenta, para decir que si no es posible hacer la precisión que Colombia se solicitó, apreciamos también volver a la redacción original, Presidenta. Gracias.
Palestine.
Well, I understand the concerns raised by our colleagues. Indeed, actually, we didn't have enough time to communicate and to consult and to explain the scope behind this amendment. These amendments are all related to heritage, and especially heritage in case of conflict and the right of children in humanitarian situations and so on. So it is directly related to our issue, but I understand that also it is the right of our colleagues to be aware about the things that they are adopting. But I think that everybody is aware about the content of the Security Council Resolution 2347. So in that case, I propose to keep only the Resolution 2347 and to delete the others, and next time we'll take a little bit more time to explain it. Thank you, Madam Chair. So you see, Palestine is always accommodating and we are always open. Thank you.
Thank you, Palestine. Do we have any other remarks? Is this acceptable to all, please? Can we move on? Please check the amendment in its final form. No remarks? Okay, then we move to adopting the overall decision. Okay, adopted. Thank you. Okay, we move on to item 12, multiple submissions of international assistance requests. We are now ready to begin the examination of item 12 of our agenda, discussion on multiple submissions of international assistance requests. As a chairperson of the Bureau, I would like to explain that the Bureau discussed the subject during its first 2 meetings earlier this year. It was first brought to our attention that an increasing number of international assistance is being submitted to the Bureau at the same time or in quick succession. The discussion was triggered by the fact that the Bureau in March this year was asked during one sitting to examine 4 international assistance requests that were submitted by a single country. So the Bureau asked the Secretariat to analyze the number and amount of assistance requests granted to a single country, together with any other pertinent administrative issues. Having discussed the results of that analysis, the Bureau considered it important that the matter be discussed by the committee and requested the Secretariat to inscribe this item on the agenda of this session. Mr. Secretary, please can you take the floor to provide more details about the item?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. As the only funding mechanism exclusively intended to supplement national efforts of state parties to safeguard their living heritage, international assistance plays a paramount importance in the implementation of the 2003 Convention. This unique tool under the ICH Fund allows for safeguarding intangible cultural heritage crafted to particular needs and national contexts. Despite its value as a safeguarding tool, the international assistance mechanism has been systematically underutilized. The Committee and the General Assembly have recognized this, and as a result, at its 6th session, the General Assembly decided to increase the ceiling of international assistance presented to the Bureau from 25,000 to 100,000. Since the 6th session of the General Assembly, the Secretariat has observed an important increase in the number of international assistance requests presented to and approved by the Bureau, confirming the effectiveness of that resolution. This positive trend did not come without challenges. Since the 6th session of the General Assembly, the Bureau of the Intergovernmental Committee has been examining an increasing number of international assistance requests up to 100,000, and some of them with multiple requests submitted by a single country in the same year. An example are the 4 requests from a single country examined by the Bureau in March 2018, as also just mentioned by the Chairperson. For this reason, a discussion was initiated by the Bureau earlier this year concerning multiple requests from a single country. What are the implications of these multiple submissions, and in order to seek the opinion of the Bureau? So the implications, it seems, could be discussed from different angles. Multiple submissions may be seen as a way to divide a single large request into several smaller ones. which may, in some cases, create governance concerns in the sense of the multiple smaller grants being above the limit set by the directives for the authority of the Bureau and bypassing the committee. Moreover, as the amount of assistance that can be examined by the Bureau has increased 4 times, since it was increased by 4 times, the amount that the Bureau is increasing is significantly higher. This means that the impact on the fund is, of course, correspondingly higher when there are multiple requests. Another concern is the state's ability to sometimes to implement several projects at the same time. We're often faced with challenges in closing projects due to delays in implementation. And this can sometimes put in question conformity with criterion A7 of the operational directives, which is, of course, very important to mitigate potential financial risks. Members of the committee, the operational directives are silent on the issue of multiple submissions. There are no indications regarding the number of files a state can submit, nor regarding the amount it can request over a given period through the Bureau. Therefore, the committee may consider it appropriate to propose revisions to the operational directives, limiting the amount of international assistance that a single country be granted through the Bureau. On this point, the Bureau was inclined to suggest limiting the total amount that can be requested by a single country, either by limiting the amount to 100,000 per year or to 200,000 per biennium. In both cases, this would be regardless of the number of requests submitted. The Secretariat considers the limit should be based on the amount rather than the number of requests, and thinks the amount of 200,000 per biennium gives more flexibility than 100,000 per year. This measure would, of course, exclude requests in cases of emergencies from this limitation, as the time and scope of emergency cannot be anticipated, and it's also as foreseen in the operational directives. And the draft decision is prepared in this sense. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis, for this very useful analysis, and I think it will be very helpful for our committee. I shall open now the floor for debate. Palestine.
شكرا سيدة الرئيسة. I would like to thank the Secretariat for the report, but I have just only a few questions. Maybe it is a little bit puzzling. Even if we say 200 per biennium, it is, in any case, it will remain 100 per year. So it is puzzling. So please give me the explanation later. I have another question also regarding the annex to the report. In the annex, actually, we see, let me go to it, we see the number of requests for each country and the outcome, the recommendation, if it is approved, rejected, or inappropriate, and so on. But when we look on the total amount, we see that you calculate the total amount for a state party, including all the requests, even if it was rejected, even if it was not considered, and so on. So would you please clarify? Thank you.
Philippines.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have a number of points to put forward on this item. Number one, every state party has a right to request for international assistance as stipulated in the Convention and operational directives. Two, developing countries are the ones that have mainly benefited from the international assistance mechanisms. And three, multiple requests from one state party may not necessarily be objectionable as long as they are needs-driven. We therefore do not think it is necessary to limit the total amount of international assistance that can be given to a single state party within a biennium to $200,000. States parties are different, and they request international assistance in accordance with their various national and local capacities and conditions. There can be instances when larger amounts and multiple projects are needed by states parties and communities concerned. Hence, we think the status quo should continue and would propose an amendment to the draft decision. Furthermore, we also have a comment on the annex with regard to the assistance approved for the Philippines of $7,500. In the end, we did not pursue this grant, and we would like this reflected in the document. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Philippines. May I ask Cuba to take the floor?
Gracias, señora presidenta. En primer lugar, agradecer la información que ha facilitado la Secretaría. Creo que por lo joven que es esta convención y por la situación de inactividad que por algún momento tuvo este fondo, estamos ahora en un proceso que también llevará a una nueva reflexión y buscar mejores mecanismos. Comparto como los delegados que me han precedido que, bueno, que hay que hacer un estudio de cada caso en particular y ver la realidad de cada país, pero también hay que tener unos límites, hay que ver cómo lo hacen otras convenciones. Estoy pensando ahora mismo en el Fondo de Diversidad Cultural, donde cada estado tiene un límite de proyectos que presentar y al final se le otorga, no se le otorgan todos los que se presentan en solicitud. Yo creo que habría que reflexionar, o el programa de participación en la UNESCO, donde cada estado presenta 4 proyectos, pero al final es el Estado el que los ejecuta. En este caso habría que tener en cuenta que son las comunidades y no podemos bloquear a una comunidad porque ya se haya pedido un proyecto o porque no se haya terminado un proyecto, pero en todo caso tendremos que reflexionar sobre eso y buscar la mejor solución para que haya un equilibrio en todo este proceso de asignación de los fondos de asistencia internacional, cuidando las prioridades, cuidando los países que más lo necesitan y también aquellas situaciones de urgencia que así los requieran. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Azerbaijan commends the Secretariat for the outstanding work in preparing the document 12. The detailed explanation of the situation and the data and statistics provided on the international assistance submitted and approved so far are quite valuable. Our delegation will be looking forward to seeing the information on submitted and approved international assistance to be available on the website of the Convention. Multiple submissions and absence of limits for requesting international assistance have obviously become an issue with the experience gained so far since the increase of the ceiling of the international assistance that can be approved by the Bureau. Our delegation has taken note of the proposals by the Secretariat in terms of different considerations that can be given to the issue. We believe that it's important to take into account whether or not international assistance proposals are submitted by the same institution within a country whose communities and institutions vary a lot from one country to another. We also believe that flexibility in terms of limits should be allowed to the emergency assistance requests, and we are pleased to see that this has been reflected in the draft decision. Finally, our delegation would also be very much in favor of knowing better the motivations and contexts of the countries that have done multiple successive submissions within 1 year, and we are wondering if the Secretariat approached these countries to better understand the reasons, context, and roles of different stakeholders involved in the submission and implementation of the international assistance requests. We believe it would be important to be aware of the context of multiple submissions in that sense, and we would ask the Secretariat to include the information in the next committee's document on this question. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Curtis, would you care to explain, please?
There was one specific question and then broader questions about process. The specific question was to differentiate between the number of requests and the amount of requests, because not all requests are at $100,000. The concern behind it, and I hear obviously a number of comments that perhaps it's not the time to do it yet and to leave it more time. The overall concern is one where the new mechanism, which is showing positive trends, and I repeat, in the last 2 years, we have implemented roughly the same of we have approved and starting to process, not fully implemented, about the same as the 7 to 8 years earlier. So this fund, which was accumulating and accumulating, is now starting to be implemented. There is a new mechanism that allows better and easier access to the fund. And we did notice, and that the authority of the Bureau is at 100,000. We did notice that we were getting larger amounts coming through the Bureau, meaning not coming through the committee. If the committee's okay to wait and see how this goes and see how it impacts on the overall fund, we wait. That is fine. The concerns are what will be the future implications in that regards. I understand there's a draft resolution, so perhaps the draft, I think the draft resolution, go ahead, my answer lies there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any remarks before we move on to the Palestine?
Sorry, I asked specific questions. I didn't have the answers for the two questions.
Yes, the annex is looking at the different status of the different projects. When we say, so that tracks all of the projects, include those rejected. So it's not, it's when we talked about requests, we include those requests which have not been approved. I understand with the Philippines, indeed, there may have been an error there, that project was approved. After it was approved, the request was withdrawn, and indeed, this needs to be updated, and we apologize for that. So the document gives the difference of requests which are withdrawn. This is not about how much money has been spent. That is the point. It is a document to show about requests, not expenditure, if that is what.
Thank you. So we'll move to the decision. Please refer to document ITH/18/13.com/12 and its draft decision in paragraph 13. Can we see it on screen, please? Okay, let's proceed paragraph by paragraph. Senegal. I apologize.
Merci, madame. Il me semble que la vision de ce côté, parce que nous avons enlevé la plaquette depuis assez longtemps. Alors, c'était juste pour dire, quand la mesure était prise à l'époque de soumettre $100,000 discutés au niveau du bureau, c'était pour alléger les procédures, c'était pour faciliter et surtout encourager les États à requérir cette assistance internationale, parce que nous avions vu qu'il y avait une insuffisance de demande. Donc, c'est dans cette perspective que cette mesure avait été prise. Mais si aujourd'hui, il y a cette soumission multiple, elle peut obéir, c'est vrai, à un besoin des communautés, à un contexte particulier, à une urgence. Mais de notre côté, ça pose un problème. Et ce problème peut être apprécié de différentes manières. Nous respectons les États, nous respectons les communautés. Mais quelque part, quand on dit ça s'arrête à 100,000, le bureau peut étudier. Sinon, après, ça demande du temps. Si on soumet plusieurs demandes par un seul pays, ça nous pose un problème. Et je pense qu'on tiendra compte des contextes, on tiendra compte de l'urgence. Si vous voulez, tout ça, on peut tenir compte. Mais, de notre côté, il sera même difficile de faire le monitoring de ces projets par le secrétariat qui a un problème déjà de personnel. Il faut quand même si vous voulez, il faut qu'on revienne un peu à pourquoi cette mesure avait été prise. Et c'est pourquoi je dis, bon, même si nous, on a besoin de cette assistance, hein, on a besoin de cette assistance, c'est vrai, mais il faut quand même qu'on essaye de tenir compte également de cet aspect de monitoring et de cet aspect même de mise en œuvre de ces projets, parce que même si c'est différentes communautés qui les soumettent, l'institution, l'État partie a un rôle à jouer par rapport à la coordination et à la soumission des rapports de ce qui se passe quand même, parce que c'est la mise en œuvre de la Convention et c'est l'État partie qui est responsable vis-à-vis de l'UNESCO dans certains cas. Je vous remercie.
Mr. Curtis, please.
Thank you. I'd just like, if I may, to speak also to the proposed draft amendment, which proposes to continue reflecting and continue getting experience on how this new mechanism is working. So it's in that sense, the Secretariat is not in a position to support, but would support if it were. Because I think at the moment the fund is not under risk. At the moment it's not yet a problem, but I'm sure it could become a problem if the trend continues. So we are not yet in the situation where it is a serious problem. I think But at the same time, this is an issue that will need to be monitored, in our opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Shall we move to adopting the draft decision, please? Okay, paragraph 1. Any comments? Adopted. 2. Adopted. 3. Adopted. 4. Okay, adopted. 5. Okay, emphasizes the importance of compliance with criterion A7 for new submissions of international assistance requests as a way to mitigate the administrative risks entailed by multiple submissions. We have the amendment by Azerbaijan and Philippines, as well as the importance of knowing the context of multiple submissions by a single country. Palestine.
Just to support the amendment submitted by Azerbaijan and Philippines. Thank you.
Senegal.
Nous supportons l'amendement.
Any objections? No objections. Then we can take it that you're all supporting. Paragraph amended. We move to paragraph 6. Requests the Secretariat to closely monitor the situation of multiple submissions and report thereof to the 14th session of the committee. Any comments? Palestine.
Just in support.
Okay. Can I take it that you're all supporting Senegal? Supporting?
Nous supportons l'amendement.
Any objections? Jamaica, you're supporting or objecting? Okay. So, paragraph adopted. Paragraph 6. Request the Secretariat to closely monitor the situation of no, we have done that. Okay, can we adopt it as a whole now? Okay, adopted, thank you. Okay. It's a tough job. Okay. We move to item 13 now. Reflection on the participation of NGOs in the implementation of the convention. Mr. Curtis, could you please present this item?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. If you could allow me to recall that the committee invited last year the Secretariat and the informal ad hoc working group to reflect in consultation with accredited NGOs on the possible ways in which the participation of NGOs under the 2003 Convention could be further enhanced. This request was made in the context of debates on the identification and definition of advisory functions that the committee wishes to be fulfilled by accredited NGOs. These are expressed as inter alia functions in paragraph 96 of the operational directives. This document highlights the preliminary analysis undertaken by the Secretariat. The informal ad hoc working group, through its report to the committee in item 16, is also reflecting upon the possible ways in which participation of NGOs could be further enhanced in the framework of the convention, and how this would be reflected in the accreditation and renewal mechanisms of NGOs. Following the 12th session of the committee in 2017, the Secretariat proposed facilitating the reflection on the role of accredited NGOs through a multi-step consultation process leading up to the 14th session in 2019. This process is supported by the Fund for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage through the funds allocated under the other functions of the committee. As a detailed account of the process is presented in document ITH/1813.com13, allow me to only outline some of its main steps. After a launch in April 2018, the consultation process started with preliminary consultations carried out from May to August with the steering committee of the ICH NGO Forum and the co-chairpersons of the informal ad hoc working group. This preparatory step allowed representatives from state parties and from the NGO Forum to exchange on their respective experiences and expectations regarding the accreditation system. In September 2018, An electronic consultation was initiated with a communication sent to all 176 accredited NGOs and 178 states parties to the convention. This consultation aimed to gather ideas and comments on the potential advisory functions to be fulfilled by accredited NGOs and possible ways forward for the accreditation system. A total of 65 accredited NGOs and 33 states parties from all 6 regions have taken part in this electronic consultation. We are still in the early stages of analyzing the responses, which arrived to us on the 19th of October. And based on this very preliminary analysis, 82% of accredited NGO expressed a positive opinion regarding the impact of the accreditation system on their work. That being said, consultation revealed that there are many areas in which the current system could be improved. For instance, around half of the respondents, including accredited NGOs and state parties, considered that the accreditation system should take into account the disparity in size and capacities of NGOs. They also recommended that it should include different types of accreditation to accommodate the various capacities and scope of NGOs. Respondents were, however, split on how these considerations would translate in terms of accreditation criteria and process. As I said, these observations are only based on very initial data gathered, but it is already very clear that the heterogeneity of accredited NGOs will lead to a diversity of opinions and suggestions regarding the future of the accreditation system. These might include, among others, the introduction of additional criteria, different types of accreditation, system or specific measures to improve the geographic balance of accredited NGOs. However, a lot of these measures will depend on what kind of advisory functions the committee would like the NGOs to fulfill. In other words, how does the committee wish NGOs to concretely contribute to its work? Together with the debates of the committee at the present session and those of the ICH NGO Forum during its symposium last Sunday, the electronic consultation will feed into the working documents of a consultation meeting to be held at the UNESCO headquarters in the spring of 2019, involving representatives from the ICH NGO Forum and from the informal ad hoc working group. The meeting will mainly be directed at defining the inter alia functions or identifying the inter alia functions of NGOs. At the next session of the committee in December 2019, it is planned that the Secretariat reports to the committee on the outcomes of the consultation meeting. If the proposed redefined accreditation system of NGOs requires revisions of operational directives, the committee may wish to discuss this at its 14th session with a view to possibly submitting revised operational directives to the 8th session of the General Assembly of State Parties in 2020. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis, for presenting the different steps of this reflection process. I open the floor now for debate. And it would be ideal if we can finish the item before we depart for lunch, because we still have a heavy schedule. So the floor is open for debate. Philippines, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For our delegation, the lack of geographical balance in the current NGO network is a cause of concern, as only the accredited NGOs would be involved in the consultation process with states parties. This would, in some sense, merely continue the imbalance in the system. As indicated on page 2 of the document, the co-chairs of the ad hoc working group had a good informal brainstorming with representatives of the ICH Forum earlier this year. Some ideas and issues are the following. Number 1, reviewing the governance of the NGO network to see how it can develop into a more institutional presence with permanent focal points. 2, ensuring feedback to NGOs whose applications are not approved. 3, mapping of the current NGO network would be useful to determine the capacities and scope of contributions that accredited NGOs can provide to the processes and mechanisms of the 2003 Convention. This may need a possible classification system in terms of national, regional, or international activities or advocacies. 4, capacity building for NGOs would be important, including through a possible MOOC to raise awareness and participation in the 2003 convention. 5. Incentives could be considered to address the lack of equitable geographic balance in the NGO network and promote establishment of NGOs in other regions. One idea was making a portion of the international assistance budget available for accredited NGOs or creating a new budget line or fund. Another suggestion was linking inscriptions on the representative list or urgent safeguarding list with establishment of NGOs. 6. Establishment of Category 2 centers that could enhance engagement with accredited NGOs. 7. In terms of the inter alia advisory services besides membership in the evaluation body, providing inputs to the new results framework in periodic reporting that was mentioned. And lastly, some member states expressed interest in developing a code of conduct for accredited NGOs. The NGO network was looking into this matter through a working group on the ethical principles for safeguarding ICH. We support the draft decision with a minor amendment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other member would like to make any remark or intervention? Netherlands, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The delegation of the Netherlands appreciates the role of NGOs in the implementation of this convention. They play an important intermediary role in strengthening the communities in participative approaches involving communities on the local, regional, national and international level, in capacity building of communities and in sharing safeguarding experiences. We welcome the ongoing transparent reflection process and consultations in the open-ended working group and between the open-ended working group, the Secretariat and the ICH NGO Forum on the possible future roles of accredited NGOs so that we all could benefit more of the roles of NGOs between communities, groups and individuals, states parties and UNESCO. There is a wide variety of NGOs which are accredited with all kinds of expertise, very valuable to this convention, and we think the reflection process on the possible roles has to find ways to map this expertise and to make it able to make use of it in a differentiated way. My delegation would like to emphasize the important role of accredited community NGOs with special expertise in specific types of ICH. Not all communities are represented in this way within the convention, but when they are, they can voice their expertise, and member states could stimulate these NGOs to be accredited, especially from countries that are underrepresented in the NGO forum. Therefore, we think we need a system that is flexible and links the convention directly to communities and grassroots organizations, and at the same time is in line with the international community at large. Key for this is the improvement of the governance of the ICH NGO Forum. This year, for the first time, the elected steering committee will start, and we hope that these developments in the governance will help facilitate the process in such a way that the working groups of the NGO Forum can focus on strengthening the outreach of the convention to civil society, regional networking, contributing to the overall results framework and reports. We hope that the NGO and ICH Forum strategy of regional networking and cooperation will contribute to the involvement and accreditation of NGOs from countries and regions in the world which are underrepresented in the NGO Forum, because this is still the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Netherlands. Cuba.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Nuestra delegación desea agradecer por la información presentada. Nos parece que es un tema de especial importancia, sobre todo en el contexto que vive hoy la UNESCO, donde a partir de toda la transformación estratégica se busca reflexionar sobre la participación de las ONG y de la sociedad civil de manera general en la organización, sin renunciar al carácter intergubernamental que tiene la UNESCO y que por supuesto también tienen estas convenciones y nuestra convención. Sin embargo, es fundamental estimular el diálogo entre la sociedad civil y los estados parte de la convención y debemos trabajar por mejorar esos mecanismos que hoy hacen mucho más invisible la presencia o la participación de las ONG. Un ejemplo que ha sido realmente positivo es ver cómo la Convención de Diversidad Cultural ha podido articular todo un recurso, toda una red en torno a las ONG, y también un poco desmitificar que solamente sean ONGs con un trabajo de investigación, sino también aquellas que tienen una labor mucho más comunitaria podrían estar presentes, aunque quizás no trabajen de manera muy directa el patrimonio inmaterial, pero tienen una participación directa con las comunidades y pueden ayudar al levantamiento, a los inventarios, a un trabajo mucho más comunitario sin perder la esencia de lo que es la Convención de Patrimonio Inmaterial. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Austria?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, we would also like to thank the Secretariat as well as the informal ad hoc working group for this important initiative that concerns various articles of the Convention, as well as the ICH NGO Forum for its active engagement and participation in this process. We also welcome the multi-step consultation approach. Nonetheless, the small number of states parties, as well as the geographically unbalanced distribution of NGOs that participated in the electronic consultation, which is clearly related also to the geographical distribution of the accredited NGOs in general, have to be taken into consideration when we interpret the outcomes during the consultation meeting. I also support the statements of the delegations of the Philippines and the Netherlands that the committee may wish to promote accreditation in underrepresented regions with a view to strengthening international cooperation as outlined in Article 19. And in this regard, we welcome the proposal of the working group concerning possible ways in which the participation of NGOs could further be enhanced, for example, by providing capacity building opportunities. We suggest that this topic is reflected upon in the upcoming consultation meeting. As mentioned in the report, around half of the respondents considered that the accreditation system should include different types of accreditation, and I would like to ask for a clarification what form these different types of accreditation would take, and also what is the reasoning behind this proposal, if possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Sénégal?
Merci, Madame la Présidente. C'est une question extrêmement importante à deux niveaux. Les ONG jouent un rôle extrêmement important sur le terrain. Et si nous allons dans un cas comme l'Afrique, en tout cas dans des régions que moi je connais mieux, les ressources humaines sont très limitées au niveau des ministères. On n'a pas beaucoup de ressources humaines pour faire tout le travail sur le terrain avec les communautés. Les ONG deviennent des relais extrêmement importants, surtout quand ces ONG travaillent directement avec les communautés. Nous avons besoin, nous, de ces ONG. Et tout le travail que nous faisons, en tout cas depuis au moins une dizaine d'années, dans la plupart des régions du Sénégal, nous faisons ce travail avec les ONG. Mais il y a un problème de déséquilibre de participation des ONG par pays. C'est vrai, si nous prenons le cas du Sénégal, il y avait peut-être une ONG qui était là pendant quelque temps et qui a disparu. Aujourd'hui, nous travaillons avec des ONG dans l'inventaire, dans l'animation au niveau des communautés, et pourtant ces ONG ne sont pas là. Donc nous avons aussi une responsabilité, nous, en tant qu'administratifs, en tant que techniciens, en tant qu'experts. Nous devons encourager ces ONG qui ne connaissent peut-être pas le réseau des ONG du patrimoine immatériel. Bien qu'ils travaillent avec nous, ils ne savent même pas comment il faut faire une accréditation, comment il faut venir. C'est pourquoi, après la conférence générale de l'année passée, quand on a vu qu'il y avait à peine un seul pays, Zimbabwe, je crois, qui avait une accréditation, nous avons décidé au Sénégal de travailler avec les ONG. Et il y a déjà 3 ONG qui ont commencé à préparer tous leurs documents pour, si vous voulez, déposer leurs demandes. Et je pense que c'est dans ce sens qu'il faut s'inscrire si on veut régler également la question de la représentativité au niveau géographique. Nous avons un rôle à jouer. encourager les ONG, travailler avec ces ONG, surtout que nous les connaissons, nous travaillons avec eux sur le terrain. Je pense que c'est ce que je voulais vraiment donner comme exemple que nous vivons au Sénégal, mais qui est également, si vous voulez, vécu dans la plupart des pays africains, en tout cas comme moi je connais. On est sous-représenté au niveau des ONG. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Mr. Curtis, please.
Thank you. I think we had a couple of questions, and I'll try to address. And indeed, also, I thank the Philippines. I understand a lot of these points are in the document coming up under the informal working group report, which is why we didn't include them in this report. They are being treated. One of the questions was why the different levels of accreditation, and there are issues concerning geographic representation. It is true that it would be a good idea to send to a broader group of NGOs a questionnaire. I am not sure if they would actually relate to these issues of accreditation and advisory functions to the committee. And because if they're not already approaching the committee, it's a language that is probably not one that they're working a lot in. Those who are at least on the ground working. We have sent letters to national commissions asking for stimulating requests from NGOs. And I think this comes to the second point, is why do we think about these accreditations and what is this about? And the issue at the beginning was the convention, the operational directives foresee for advisory functions inter alia. And I remind that the only advisory function in any true sense seems to be, at the moment that's defined, is the evaluation body role in any clear way. And that as the Secretariat preparing for the committee's renewal of the evaluations based on the criteria, it becomes complicated and unclear on what is actually the criteria for renewal. So this was why last year this consultation was initiated. I think it is still only very preliminary. I think the idea of broadening it beyond those NGOs that are accredited is a good one, although we may need to broaden it in a different kind of way than the particular survey we sent. And I don't know if I've answered all of those questions.
Thank you. We'll move now to the observers to hear from them. Belgium, please.
Thank you very much. The Belgian delegation would like to thank the Secretariat and the committee for this active exploration of the possibilities for accredited NGOs to contribute to the success in implementing this convention. We look forward to the results of the survey and the reflections. We would in any case again recall a decision already taken by the Intergovernmental Committee in the Windhoek meeting, decision 10.15a.9, 10 and 11, that it is included in this exploration of the inter alia functions. And we do hope that inspiration is found in this decision when developing the work on the overall results framework. Thank you.
Thank you. I see we have no more plates raised. Where? Okay, please. And state the name of your NGO, please.
Okay, I will be speaking on behalf of the ICH NGO Forum. I'm Joreen Nering from workshop in Intangible Heritage Flanders. The ICH NGO Forum is very happy with the transparency and the dialogue and the reflection on how the participation of NGOs could be further enhanced and how this will be reflected in the future accreditation process. We look forward to learn from the online consultation results and to reflect along with the Secretariat and the informal ad hoc working group towards the recommendation and decision to be made at 14COM. We share the observations being expressed in the document and by the delegate of the Philippines reporting from the meeting in June, among other, about efforts needed on geographical distribution and working through capacity building. As being said in our speech earlier this week, the NGO Forum has been working firmly for performance in its governance in the recent years. As a result, this Wednesday, the first fully elected steering committee could be presented. Members come from each of the 6 regions, along with a member representing the international NGOs, to maximize our governance structure and guarantee good participation. A document on ethical principles has been prepared at this session, and we are working on an ethics action plan as well as on a code of conduct for steering committee members. From its side, the Forum is also taking initiatives for consultation on the role of NGOs inter alia for the implementation of the Convention. 3 NGO meetings in 2018 were especially devoted to the inter alia process, among which also the Forum's annual symposium this Sunday, with over 90 participants from both NGOs, states parties and other actors in the Convention. It is proposed to map the possible contributions of NGOs in alignment with functions of the Committee, Article 7 of the Convention, and with the overall results framework. Dear Chairperson and committee members, NGOs form indeed a rich resource feeding the implementation of the Convention to its full potential. NGOs take up roles of mediation and facilitation with respect to cultivating local to global safeguarding processes in ICH. This has been highlighted before in your debates, and it is also mentioned in the Operational Directives chapter on sustainable development. Regarding the possible advisory functions of the accredited NGOs, we have already identified 5 new dimensions, adding to the evaluation role in the evaluation body currently. 1. NGOs may serve as a laboratory of ideas and inspiring practices for raising and discussing new issues in relation to societal changes, highlighting critical aspects in safeguarding, methodologies and procedures. This often happens through transnational cooperation and effective networking of NGOs, and building connections also with other actors like research institutes, civil society and other partners. Such cross-border collaboration of NGOs, for example, is the case in the dry stonewalling listed at this session, for the new registered good practice of the storytelling network of Kronoberg yesterday, or the ICH and museums project in Europe started by accredited NGOs with support with the Forum. Second, an obvious NGO role lies in contributing to the safeguarding of ICH. NGOs contribute to safeguarding measures and methodologies in general or of specific elements of ICH, whether or not inscribed, as well as for the follow-up on inscribed elements. Third, NGOs are well equipped to share safeguarding experiences in lighter and accessible ways. A nice example is the online platform NordicSafeguardingPractices.org, in which accredited NGOs are very much playing a vital role, as well as the Heritage Alive online journal of the Forum on its website. Fourth, the role of NGOs for awareness raising on ICH and safeguarding in society, and for building and strengthening capacities with stakeholders at large. And fifth, a diversity of reporting functions serving the committee and the overall results framework, regional reporting, status of inscribed elements, and other. This being said, we hope we can further enrich the reflection on future functions for NGOs in the Convention, and that as a result of the consultation process will a set of valuable functions that amplify the implementation of the Convention in future years. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move now to adopting the decision. Can we see it on screen, please? I don't think. I can see no amendments. Philippines.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. It's just an amendment to paragraph 5, and it's just a reference to the informal ad hoc working group, which we will take up later, and many speakers referred to. So our amendment would be after ICH NGO Forum, comma, the informal, open-ended ad hoc working group.
Thank you. Can we adopt the first 4 paragraphs? I see no objection. The paragraph 1, 2, 3, and 4 are adopted. Let's go over paragraph 5. Okay, request that the Secretariat continue the reflection with accredited non-governmental organizations, the ICH NGO Forum, and we have the amendment from the Philippines, the informal ad hoc open-ended working group, and state parties to the definition of the advisory functions to be fulfilled by accredited non-governmental organizations, and that at present the result of such reflection and proposals for the revision of the accreditation system at its 14th session. Any objections to the introduced amendment, suggested amendment by Philippines? None? Okay, adopted. Can we adopt the whole draft decision now, please? Okay, adopted. Thank you very much. And please, before we leave the room, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Curtis for some practical announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. During lunch break, information sessions on safeguarding intangible cultural heritage in formal and non-formal education will take place in the Kestrel room on the first floor. There are 2 sessions scheduled consecutively. The first one held in English from 1:30 p.m. and the second one in French from 2 p.m.
Thank you, and we'll see you at 2:30. Thank you very much. Bye.